Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the podcast daily. I am Austin Ward. That is Bill Landis, and he's Jeremy Birmingham. Guess what? We also all work at Rivals.
Yeah.
Well, we're burying the lead there. I see.
Hey,
Bury
Birm,
the lead.
congratulations on joining our team. I don't know what it took for me to really sweeten the pot and get you to come on board with us, but we're thrilled to have you.
You know what? To be let's talk for a moment here, like sincerely and honestly.
Okay.
Did you ever imagine that we would be doing this in another national network?
No.
It is kind of crazy. It's certainly not what I expected, but the fact is that Rivals is a good opportunity for us to do things the way we've always done it. We get to add a guy like Bill, who's great, and we think we can really build a great team. And knowing what you guys were already doing, I figured, why the hell not? Let's make the move. And I'm happy that it's done and over with, and we can look towards the future.
Wow.
That's really ultimately the thing for me, like to the future, to infinity and beyond, or to infinity and advance, or I don't know what that stupid star. What was his name? Starburst.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, you do.
Yes,
know.
his name was Starburst. Yes.
You've been watching Lightyear with Liberty for the last 2 weeks during the season, so I know you know what
Starburst.
it says.
Yeah, Starburst.
Well, what a compliment that is for you and me, Bill, because I just figured we'd have no chance at hiring the person that I've worked with for the last 5 years.
Yeah, I'm really glad that friendship of yours worked out. I was getting a little nervous.
So
you kept alluding to hiring this new recruiting guy. I didn't know what you were talking about, so I'm glad it worked out this way.
we can dance around the topic all we want here, boys, but the truth is, we obviously like working together. We enjoy conversation on and off the camera, and I'm just glad that we get to continue doing it. And I want to give a sincere thank you to everyone in the world of Ohio State football, recruiting and fans out there who supported me and the last couple months. And let's move forward. We're moving on. We're on to Cincinnati.
Okay, and we're on to Ohio State and Notre Dame in 2 weeks. More importantly. And you can find all that work and all that coverage, by the way, at Dotting the I's. And we're going to keep doing this. The podcast is not going anywhere. So just another avenue to find all of our work. One example of that is something that I wrote on Wednesday, which is a format I've used for a long time. It's called 5 Questions. And I wanted to take a look at what may be unanswered for the Buckeyes. They're at the true midway point. Bill and I maybe jumped the gun earlier in the week. I thought they were halfway. Then I had to do the math. They reached an actual midway point in the middle of this week towards camp being over, and then preparation for September 3rd. What's left? You don't have to use any of the 5 that I threw out there. What do you think is the most pressing unanswered question for the Buckeyes at this point in August?
I don't know if this is the most pressing, because I feel like you kind of hit on the most pressing or most of the most pressing. So, but I wanted to kind of deviate from your list, and I'll shock you by talking about the offensive line.
Right? Oh, buddy.
Yeah. The thing I have in my head with that group is the last time that we saw them against a team that had a premier pass rush and a supremely talented individual pass rusher, it did not go great. Now, I know there maybe were some extenuating circumstances for the offensive line in that game, but an offensive line that had been so good protecting the passer kind of failed at that job, in my opinion, when they lost at Michigan. And they are playing what I think is probably the best pass rusher they're going to see, at least in the regular season, when they play Notre Dame on September 3rd, and Isaiah Foskey. And I want to know if the work that DeJuan Jones has put in this offseason to become, I guess, a more nimble athlete and better equipped to defend speed rushes, and also, just Paris Johnson's general comfortability being out there on that island because he hasn't been there in so long, how that's going to look when they go up against a guy like that. Now, I know in practice they go up against studs all the time. That's going to be really important. I'm not trying to minimize that, but I do think it's different once you get into a game setting and you're going up against a guy who's like, you don't have the book on. You're kind of learning about him as it's happening. So that is it's an unanswered question for me. It's not a major question. I don't think it's the most important question, but I think it is a question that matters.
I think it's important. Also, I don't know what your 5 questions were, Austin. So can you just run through those real quick?
We'll get you an account so that you can read it tomorrow.
Cool. Also, I want to be clear. No one likes premature prognostication, which clearly you guys were doing 2 days ago, which is unbelievable. For me, the question is, how comfortable is C.J. Stroud with every receiver not named Jackson Smith and Jigba? Like, how comfortable is he in a game where timing becomes so important because of, as Bill just alluded to, when you have a guy like Isaiah Foskey who's going to be accelerating the pocket a little bit and forcing CJ to maybe get rid of the ball a touch faster than you'd want to. How good is the timing? How much work has been done with Emeka Ibuka, with Marvin Harrison, with Julian Fleming? How good can that pass game be when you lose Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in the first game you have to play is against a team that's going to force you to speed things up in the pocket? So that to me is the biggest question. I'm sure we'll circle back around. So I'm not going to, I'll wait. I'll just wait.
Is that because somebody is just really
guys, I have a lot of excitement.
He's
right
so
now.
excited by the freedom.
Man, I feel so good today. But the point is, I'm going to let's circle back, circle back.
Well, so is that why you've been advocating that Jackson Smith and Jigba not be allowed to practice in training camp?
Yes, that's exactly why. That's exactly why. And I realize that to some that may seem like a crazy idea. Am I crazy? I don't know, but I don't think it's that crazy. I think he's so good, and the timing with Jackson Smith and Jigba and C.J. Stroud is so obvious and so well orchestrated at this point that I think that he shouldn't be allowed to practice. I think that if they want to work together, they should have to do it after official practices.
It doesn't really seem fair.
It seems perfectly fair to me, and because he doesn't need it and they don't need it. So get off the field, Jackson. You know what I'm saying?
I thought the chemistry between C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. was pretty good in the Rose Bowl. I think that.
What do you have? 3 catches? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Berman, they all got points.
I mean, I guess
standard is the standard, I suppose. But Emeka Ibuka caught a ball or two that looked pretty impressive. I remember the deep sideline throw in the bucket from C.J. Stroud.
Sure.
From what we've seen in especially that Thursday practice last week, I thought Emeka Ibuka was the best player on the field, at least for that workout in my mind. Removing Jackson Smith and Jigba and C.J. Stroud from that conversation. So
why would you have to remove them? Do you think that they don't belong in the conversation?
I just think it'd be too obvious if I said that they were really good players. I mean, Onyx Authenticated flew into town to get them to sign autographs for a reason.
So do you think that Jackson Smith and Jigba should be allowed to practice at the same time?
Yeah, he doesn't think that he's a finished product. He wants to get better.
America, please. Anyway, Austin, we've given our thoughts. What are yours? I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I feel pretty good right now, so we're just moving along.
You have a glow to you that I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, thank you.
He's had a stress headache for the last 2.5 months, and now I think that's dissipated. Maybe he'll have a different headache when we get out to the interviews on Thursday morning. We'll see. I mean, I wrote down 5 questions, so I don't know how many more I could possibly have. I think I'm going to borrow a little bit from Berm here, and that is that I don't think that Jackson Smith and Jigba should return punts for Ohio State. So at the expense of borrowing from him again and saying that Cameron Martinez needs to do it, I'm going to do both of those things. I don't envision Ohio State's wide receiver rotation actually being 6 deep because Jackson is so good. I don't think that you can take him off the field. And I would be hesitant to risk putting him back there to field punts if you have somebody else that you can trust to do it. And I think that Cameron Martinez has the capability to catch punts, to consistently pose a threat to other coverage units, and to potentially, Berm, a bold prediction perhaps, break a streak that's gone back 8 years and take a punt return to the house for a touchdown. That might be coming on a bold prediction episode near you. Maybe multiple times. I hope not. I'm getting tired of saying it, but I think.
Yeah, me too.
I think Cameron Martinez has the ability to do that. And to me, it's just not worth it. So I don't know the answer to that. Every time we've been out there at practice, Jackson Smith and Jigba has still been leading the line at punt return So I assume that that's what the answer is going to be, but that's maybe one where I think that they should actually change it.
Well, they can trust Cam to catch it, right? Like they put Jackson back there, they put Garrett back there because they just wanted the guy who could catch it and they could trust, who wouldn't put it on the carpet when it got to him. I think Cam can probably do that, right? Or Caleb Brown can do it. Like I don't want Jackson back there either. Jackson should play his offense and then come off to the sideline and be put in a hyperbaric chamber. And then when it's time to go back out onto the field, you let him out of it.
And he's not even allowed to practice according to Berm, so he's really going to be in some bubble wrap.
He should be super fresh. Yeah, he should be super fresh this season.
Okay, you wanted us to circle back. What else is on your mind?
No, it's Bill's turn.
I have to come up with another question? I only came up with one.
Yeah. No, we're playing 10 questions.
Oh,
5 of them were answered by Austin. 5 of them were answered by Austin on Wednesday. Yeah, so it's 10 questions.
I will probably steal one of Austin's then that he wrote, and it was who's going to lead a team in sacks. I think that is a fascinating conversation of who is going to be what Larry Johnson referred to multiple times as the alpha dog up front on the defensive line. He said he knows who it is, but he wouldn't tell us. I was a little upset about that. My guess, based on a lot of things we've heard going back to last spring, especially this summer, from Jim Knowles on down, is that it's probably going to be Jack Sawyer. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be like the leader of the unit in terms of the rah-rah captain kind of guy, but I don't think that's what the alpha dog is. I think the alpha dog is the guy who terrifies the opposing offense. And I think that Jack Sawyer is going to fill those shoes. But I do find myself wondering a little bit about JT Tuimoloau and I guess exactly what that production could look like. I think I've said before, and I think maybe Austin, you said the same, like we expect him to be very good, but is the nature of his position one that allows him to rack up stats at a crazy rate that we're going to be talking about him as a guy who's kind of like wrecking defenses? Because I think that's the easiest shorthand to talk about guys like that is how many sacks do you have? You can be very good without getting a lot of sacks. But I think Jack might be racking them up in a way that we're talking about him every week.
Yeah, I think that conversation about the alpha dog could have been about any number of guys. I do think it was probably Jack or JT that were the primary conversation pieces there. But I think that you have something building with Michael Hall, with Ty Hamilton, with these other guys, that these guys that just go out there and are relentless, and you know that they're willing to get into a scrap. And, you know, as Bobby Carpenter would say, these guys are willing to shank someone. I think you need someone out there that's really willing and ready to stand up for your teammates. I go back to a year ago for Ohio State, and you know there was all the conversation about the toughness and the lack of toughness for that team. And there isn't a single moment that stands out to me more than in Ann Arbor when Cameron Brown was basically face to chest with 5 different Michigan offensive linemen, and no one else from the Ohio State team stepped up and stood with him. And I think that moment is something that is burned into the brains of people on this team. And I think you're going to see a much feistier team this year. And I think you're going to see maybe more of the penalties for stuff that you don't really want penalties for, the unsportsmanlike stuff. But I think you have to have a little bit of that edge. And that's something that Ryan Day's talked about over and over and over in the last few weeks, that callousness, that you got to go out there and be ready to you know, prepare to fight for your teammates. And I think that's why you're going to see some of these guys, and my prediction, my thought really, is that somebody like J.K. Johnson is going to have a much bigger role on this defense than we've anticipated in the last few weeks. And I think that the opportunity to get some first-team reps and move himself up the depth chart because of nagging injuries to Jordan Hancock, to Cam Brown, is going to give him an opportunity to do that. And I think that ultimately, to me, that's the other question. Who's the guy that's going to step up opposite Denzel Burke and just be the go-to bad mama jamma at corner? And I really have this rising feeling that someone like J.K. Johnson or even Jair Brown, who I am stunned by how much just unbelievably positive things we've heard about Jair Brown in the last few weeks, because he's a guy that was sort of a throw-in to people in the 2022 recruiting class. The buzz around Jair Brown is pretty palpable, and I think that someone is going to surprise us at the cornerback position. I just don't know who it is. So to me, that's the question. Who's that guy that a year ago we had no idea what Denzel Burke was going to do or be, but he just stepped up and was the CB1 all year? Who's going to be the guy to step into that role and take it this year? That's the other question for me.
And the other one, just to be clear, is will Ohio State lead the country in penalties?
Yes.
And you wanted the answer to be yes.
I mean, I think that I hope that there are penalties of emotion and not of inconsistent play and just being unprepared. I mean, we saw it last year. J.K. Johnson, Michael Hall, they got into games and immediately got personal fouls. And they're like, okay, get off the field. You're embarrassing yourself. But you needed those guys. I mean, you needed those guys to come in those situations and play with some passion and play with some fire. So I think that this team is more prepared and more willing to be undisciplined in some of those moments if it means that guys are playing with some spirit and some fight.
I think I could.
Does that make sense?
I think I could entertain that notion and enjoy
buy
seeing
it.
that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's leave it there. This has been the Podcast Daily.
It's been wild. It's been a wild ride, boys.
We're gonna be back. Are you okay?
I'm just so happy right now. But I think that we should tell people, go to ohiostate.rivals.com if you want more information on the Ohio State team, a little bit more in depth, a little more back and forth with us on the message boards and that kind of stuff. And, Austin, you could take it away from there, right? But ohiostate.rivals.com, sign up there to interact with us. We're always here on the podcast also, but, we want to be everywhere, everything to everyone. America.
That's what we're going for. And we will be, the next place we will be is the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Thursday morning. There will be some form of Snappy J or Snap Judgments. There's a poll going on now to whether we should rename that. Also fascinating stuff that's going on. And things are obviously only going to get weirder and a lot more fun and maybe even insightful at times. We're going to try to do all those things as we really get to regroup here and launch forward, as Berm said, to infinity and beyond. That's Bill Landis. Berm, I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you tomorrow on the Podcast Daily.